I'll go to the gentleman from Wisconsin, Mr. Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Chairman. We're obviously all appalled at the findings of the report into the toxic culture at the FDIC. And quite honestly, I can't believe you're sitting here today before the committee. Thought you would have resigned already. One FDIC employee reported how she feared for her own physical safety. So we're not just talking about the harassment. If you have employees that feel that way, it's far more serious than I think we could even describe here in the short period of time that we've been given. I mean, you can't consider the FDIC a good work environment right now for employees, specifically women, do you?
We have a lot of work to do, Congressman.
Would you feel comfortable if your own daughter worked at FDIC?
Yes, and we have many employees who do have daughters working at the FDIC.
Well, I think I join a long line of members of Congress that simply wish that you would resign and turn leadership over to someone who may be more competent and have a better handle on the issues within the FDIC. I have a few questions for some other witnesses. I've been pleased to see that some of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle see the problem with Basel implementation proposal. However, rather than going back to the drawing board, some of my colleagues are pushing only for the narrow carve-out from increased capital requirements for green energy tax credits from the Inflation Reduction Act. I think you likely will say that Mr. Barr, this is directed to you. So I think you would likely see that there's some trade-offs necessary to prevent kind of any financial crisis that doesn't help families likely to obtain a mortgage under the proposal, which is something I've just been personally focused on. However, if such a carve-out is granted to address only one of the many problems in your proposal, while much of it remains intact, what message would that send, not just on the independence of the Federal Reserve, but to families who may have more difficulty getting a mortgage, or a small business who would see reduced access to credit? Because I feel like that's really at the heart of a lot of issues that have emerged, is the lack of the ability of kind of this, what we considered a wealth builder, which is home ownership, and small businesses being able to flourish. So I'm wondering if you have any comments about that.
Thank you, Congressman. We take very seriously the comments that we got on the proposal. We expect to make material changes to it, broad changes to it. I will say even the proposal as proposed would have a very, very small effect on the price of credit in the economy, including with respect to mortgages and small business. But we heard those comments very much. We're looking at the prospect of making changes on all three aspects of the rule with respect to credit, operational risk, and market risk, and we're working through the substance of that now.
So do you think the consequences of the merger delays could significantly harm both kind of acquiring institutions and the targets, which could cause greater operational risk, I guess you could say, whether it's increased costs or even reputational kind of concerns? So do you think that with kind of this prolonged uncertainty, what effect do you think it's having right now?
Well, most mergers that we review at the Federal Reserve, the median merger application approval time is in under 2 months. So most mergers go through quite smoothly and easily. We do have much more complex cases, often involving larger institutions, where either we need to gather more information or there are difficulties in the application itself that have to be worked through, and we've got to meet the congressional factors for approval or disapproval. So again, most mergers, pretty straightforward. Some mergers, much more complicated.
So if there is something discovered, how do you guys typically handle do you circle back then and readdress these concerns, or how is that initially kind of addressed, and ultimately with the idea of maybe there's an opportunity to kind of make a change to the initial application?
Yes, Congressman. There's a lot of conversation back and forth. If the application initially presents issues, those can sometimes be addressed through the process. If there's information lacking, those can sometimes be addressed through the process. And at the end of the day, we need to meet the congressional 5 objectives that are laid out for us.
Very good. Thank you. I yield back, Chairman.